What's up, guys? This is Jakob. I'm Content AI Manager and founder of Content AI Tools. Welcome to a new episode of the Web3 Live Show, where I speak with experts around the world who are deep in the niche of Web3, who are responsible for NFTs or for AI. And Web3 is a big, big buzzword. And the main mission of this show is to break it down, make it simple so that people understand it, show use cases. And when it comes to use cases, Marc Angelos is the perfect interview guest. He's a 30-year sales leader from the fintech world. He's the founder and CEO of Anvictus Communication, which is a content and sales consultancy service in the blockchain and the Web3 space. Welcome, Marc. How are you doing?
Thank you, Jakob. Good to be here. Appreciate the time.
Yeah, thank you for your time. Really appreciate that you're here on the show and share your knowledge about and your expertise, because you are very deep in these topics. So before we jump into the topic of AI and NFTs, can you, in a nutshell, introduce yourself? So who's Marc?
Sure. So my name is Marc Angelos. I come from 30 years of finance. I'm from the fintech side of Wall Street capital markets, so trading desks in New York City. And my background includes some of the largest firms you'll know, like Morgan Stanley and UBS. And basically, my job was to help people to understand and use AI-based trading software. So in the stock trading world, many hedge funds especially use AI-based software to trade. It's things that can understand what the quote unquote price of a stock should be down to the millisecond throughout the day. And if the stock is trading like it should, quote unquote, or not, the software will respond appropriately. There's big money at stake every day in the markets, and many times the folks behind these trading efforts are not technologists, right? They're finance minds, but they're not technology people. And so getting people to use AI-based trading software or to understand it and trust in it is a whole world unto itself. And in fact, I eventually had written so much content and produced so many videos around this that I left finance, and now I do this in the Web3 NFT space, because I often find, as you would know, Jacob, we talked about this, it's sometimes there's not always the overlap in skill sets between the technologist and the ability to build that trusting rapport with potential users. And so that's what I do. My company right now does content marketing around AI for projects that are involved in the NFT Web3 space. That would be things like real estate tokenization, layer 2 blockchain solutions to make the blockchains faster, crypto gaming. These are the types of projects that I now help market.
Awesome. Just a follow up. So why did you chose to leave fintech and start your own thing? What was the main reason? Because I guess these are big companies and maybe they don't get the tech, but pretty good and big size companies.
So it's a funny story. There's a product in Wall Street called the Algo Wheel, and it's basically an algorithm that will, and it's AI driven, that understands which is the best trading algorithm to use, because multiple companies compete and produce multiple trading algorithms. So this product was an AI-based product that my company at the time had invented, and we were selling it. And I wrote an extensive piece about it, and it was lifted off my LinkedIn without my knowledge and printed in Bloomberg and many other places. So it ended up driving so much business, after I got yelled at, by the way, by compliance, that I realized, oh, this is a sales tool. Content as sales is a very well-established thing, but years and years ago, we didn't realize that on Wall Street. And so once I recognized that, I began producing a ton of content, which drove all types of business. A few years ago, pandemic lockdown, all the companies I had previously worked at came to me and said, hey, can you help us create content like you were doing when you used to work here? And I thought to myself, this sounds like a company to me. And so that's what I do now. But basically, finance, I love the finance world, trading and honestly, cryptocurrency in general, all of that the financial markets end of technology. It's very interesting to me, but now it's expanded with DeFi and it's moved outside the purview of traditional finance. And many of these projects need help marketing it. Many of them don't understand how to connect to potential prospects. And so that's my expertise. I'm a salesperson at heart, but I understand technology and how to express the value of it.
Yeah, I love it. I really love it. So for different reasons. So by the way, we have already comments. So Chris Ross, he's a cool guy from from England, so maybe it would be also a good connection with you. Jakob, good to see you live. Chris is also all the time live, in my opinion. So
Thanks
if there
for
are
joining,
any
Chris.
questions, yeah, thanks for joining, Chris. If there are any questions, just let us know in the comment section, and we try to answer it. I think we will do a good job with this kind of expertise that we have today. Okay, cool. Can we deep dive a little bit more maybe to DeFi? Oh, sorry, do you wanted to say something?
No, go right ahead.
Okay. So decentralized finance, America lost in England.
So Chris, if it makes you feel better, I was in London a couple of weeks, maybe 2 weeks back, and I totally understand. Most of my role, by the way, when I was in traditional finance, I covered the European-based trading firms. So I was in Europe all the time. And besides the cultural differences of explaining the technology and the differences in, culture, it's communication in general, which is what I name my firm, is the key to any kind of revenue. So whatever business you're in, it doesn't matter, AI or otherwise, how well are you connecting and expressing the value of what you do? And now to your point, Jacob, DeFi is now moved into a whole new world.
Yeah. But just curious, what were, in your opinion, the biggest difference where you compare American and
so I could tell you that,
European?
right? There's a different trading stocks or currencies or any type of financial instrument. There's a style in trading, the way you have a style in communicating. The European style in general is more conservative than, say, the American style. And what I mean by that is if I'm buying, I don't know, Amazon stock, and I need to get 1 million shares done within the hour, and all of a sudden the stock moves away from me, the price is running higher, I'm trying to buy it. What do I do? Do I finish that up quickly or do I wait? In the American world, it's get that thing done. In the European world, it's generally, let's be a little more cautious here and not pay if we don't have to. And that style of trading has to be built into the algorithms that these people are using. The AI-based tools we're talking about need to reflect the opinions, cultures, preferences of the user. And that translation piece was what I did. So understanding how you would do your business and then trying to help build the tech around that with my technologists.
That's cool. Very cool.
Never easy. And it's a moving target, right? Because the markets change, you change.
Yeah. And when it comes to DeFi, I mean, I wrote a couple of articles and interviewed also some people. So, but I'm curious, how would you define DeFi yourself? So what is your definition when it comes to DeFi?
Decentralized finance fascinates me, and obviously, in my opinion, is the future. The thing that I think is different, and the perspective I'll bring, Jacob, is the movement towards DeFi isn't going to take down traditional finance. It's not here to overturn the world as people think. It's going to become traditional finance. So you already have firms like Goldman Sachs that are trading derivatives on things like Bitcoin. That whole derivatives markets trading of non-traditional instruments, that's only going to continue. So even though, nobody owns or issues something like a Bitcoin, it's still going to be traded and handled and done in traditional financial ways. It's just that the product itself is different. So DeFi, in my opinion, is just finance done with different technology. And I know that that's probably not the common view right now. Give it time, because ultimately money in banking, it's a system that works. It's just a question of control, right? And the whole decentralization of it is interesting. But in the end, when there's money at stake, people tend to react the same ways. So we'll see how it plays out. But I do believe DeFi becomes traditional finance over time. Like there's going to be the encroachment, and that may not sit well with a lot of people, but that's already starting to happen.
Yeah. So, yeah, interesting. Because I always mention this aspect of being decentralized and being my own bank to some degree, staking my own money. These kind of futures that are completely different when I compare it with my traditional bank, my fiat bank.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing that are always in my head when I think about DeFi. But it's an interesting statement that you.
So I'll tell you two things.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No,
I have a teenage son who's mining cryptocurrency in the back of my house here. That's been going on for a while. Right.
Good son.
And He's not Series 7 licensed, or he doesn't have any government permissions to be doing it. So this is not. They don't even think that way, right?
Yeah.
I've also attended, many of these cryptocurrency meetups in New York City, for example, where there's these hippies that are going to take down JP Morgan, right? Right. This is the whole movement. The truth of the matter is, people like it. It's interesting. They want the independence of money. I'm all for that. I understand that, and I recognize the libertarian aspects of it. I don't want to get into that. But the point is, at the end of the day, money gravitates to money, right? So even though you want to run your own bank, and I think that everyone can do that and should do that, but the technology hurdle is real right now. You know this already. But in the AI world, DeFi, there's hand-holding that's needed. And people are willing to trade a little bit of that independence for that help. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying it is. So the real front-end technologists, they're fine. But your average person, and as I can attest, the finance world has technology smart people, but they're not technology builders. The average finance person is going to look to trade off to manage the risk.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and what we need now more than ever is somebody who can translate these kind of products, things, so that the communication part becomes much more important. That's also the reason why I started this show, because I didn't understand. I mean, I say about myself, I'm a techie person, so I like to try new things, and technology fascinates me. I also have this content AI show where I look on these kind of deep fake software or synthetic media.
Mm-hmm.
But still, I didn't get Web3 to some degree. There were so many buzzwords, and that's the reason why I think, and you also, I think we have the same opinion that we need more people who explain things, right?
See, you're an interesting cat, though, Jakob, because you actually bridge both sides of the left brain, right brain. You understand technology, you understand communication. That's not always the case. And this is not a shot at either side. Many times the blowhard sales guy doesn't understand the tech, or the technology builder does not know how to explain the value of that tech to the customer. And so a guy like yourself who can kind of bridge both worlds, that's where this is all going to go. People, that's a necessary skill set to combine the technology with the communication, as you mentioned. And there's not a lot of people that are doing it. The Web3 evolution is a thing. Like, there's no question that Web3 is going to impact the world that already is. The question is, how do I, as a business owner, understand the value to me? I'm oftentimes on a show there. There was a show I was on with our mutual friend, Mitch Jackson. How can lawyers use NFTs? That was the question on the table. And the answer is, whatever questions you're getting from your clientele, you need to be able to put that into a value-based NFT, right? It might be free consultation. It might be things that you would want to benefit as a legal customer. I can get digitally. My point is the ability to express the combination of the technology, making it simple, turning it into value, and then being able to market that. The fact that it's a digital distribution is almost secondary, and in time that won't matter. But right now, it's a hurdle. People don't understand. And so you're doing a great job. Shows like this, your show is awesome because content AI tools specifically, AI tools are overtaking the content marketing world. And no one understands really, how do I best leverage them? That's communication.
Yes. So I always tell the story about how I was on a speech about AI generated text articles for journalists, and I was the only one who was excited about these kind of technology. Other people were just afraid, and they said, "Well, the AI needs a couple of years, right?" So questions like that came most of the audience, but I was the only one who was excited. But back to your point, I think when it comes to the NFT example, oftentimes what that's my so far my experience. Most business owners or businesses, they think, we just launched this NFT, that's it, but they don't think about the value. So why? So is it adding value to basically to the customer? This is a question that they oftentimes don't ask. And the same with AI. They just say, we have to use it. But why? So what's the benefit that you get from it? And that's I am not sure why, but maybe it's because it's something digital and it's fancy, it's cool, and we want to also participate on it. because it's trendy and everybody speaks about it. I oftentimes have the feeling that that's because everybody launches an NFT collection. They also have to do it, but that's not the case. So you have to think first about your base.
Here's what I
your
love
clients.
about you, Jacob. I couldn't agree more. You're a business-minded person. They do get lost in the tech because it's the fancy new thing, but this is a value game. This is about business strategy. NFTs aren't about art, and NFTs aren't even about the tech. NFTs are about what is the delivery of the value to your end customer. And I don't care what company you're running. It's as a potential customer of your thing, how do I benefit? What can I do? And you can deliver all that digitally. So whether it's going to be merch or online events, access to you, trainings in your case, you've done a great job on your website of grading out the value levels that you get for the AI coins. This requires thought process. So while people are all, starstruck by the technologies of NFT, it's about strategy. And every company in the world is going to have a business NFT strategy, whether they know it or not. So if you think about airline miles or your coffee cards at Starbucks, it's that for your company. And if you haven't given thought to what exactly am I delivering at each level, you're not going to win. The people who can convey and transfer value through the technology tools win. The technology as the tool is secondary. That's the part people aren't getting, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. That's cool. So when clients are coming to you, do you have a process how to evolve and maybe they don't have a value proposition? Do you ask specific questions or is there a guide that you go through? Okay, cool.
So there's traditional messaging first. The first step for me and my customer base would be, what are we trying to say? And who are we trying to reach, right? So you have to identify your message to your target client. This is typical marketing. No, the tech isn't involved yet. Then it becomes what we just talked about. The technology piece is what is the value you're bringing and how can these customers leverage you and your tools? And then it becomes a matter of what is the strategy around expressing that messaging of that value in a continual process, right? This is content marketing 101. But the reality is you have to combine the messaging first. You have to know who you're trying to reach, and you have to have hammered out what is the value proposition you are delivering on a consistent basis. And this needs to be something they can research and understand. In the old days of selling, you would sit with someone, you would go to dinner, you would, take them to a sporting event. That all happens digitally now. What you're doing right now, we're building rapport. You through this are building rapport with your potential prospects and clients, folks you won't even know. And as the data shows 8 to 10 touch points before they even reach out to your sales team. If you're not putting out content, you're not selling. However, the content can't be about sales. It has to be educational, in your case, entertaining. You're doing a great job in illustrating with this show. Every company should have an outreach program, a show of some type, podcast, video series, somewhere where customers and prospects can interact. If Chris Ross wants to drop a question in the chat, perfect. And if he doesn't, that's okay too. But you're giving them the opportunity to do so. And that's the whole messaging system around what are you doing in content, especially when it comes to the tech.
Mm-hmm. So in my experience, so I would sign to everything you said so far. So what oftentimes people want is they don't put the time into the effort to create the content. They say, well, I'm going to go live once and then I want 10,000 leads potential and 1,000 potential prospects. That's what the reality looks in their head. Yeah.
So this touches on the left brain, right brain technologist versus sales thing. There's always this need to measure the metrics, right? Especially in marketing, but technologists tend to like things you can measure. Oftentimes, you can't measure relationship. The fact that you and I have built this rapport, I now feel differently towards you and you towards me. And so that's why when people see someone they recognize in the street, they stop and say hello. What's the value on that? Is there a dollar number you can put? Not really, but yet there is value. So relationship-based business, we'll call it, is the only type of business left. People will do business with those they know, like, and trust. And that's even more so the case in technology or if there's money at stake. If I've got $1 million at risk and I don't know you or your product, I'm not using it. You can attest to this one, Jacob. A lot of times customers will say things like, I don't really understand the thing. Just tell me what I need to do. And that's like, you might know all the content AI tools. You might understand how the NFT should be structured. They don't want to know it. Just tell me what I need to know. I used to get the conversation of, Mark, if I drop a big order into this AI-based trading tool and something goes wrong, are you going to be the one that picks up the phone? And the answer is yes. And they were like, that's it. That's all I need to know. I'm good enough. So the trust bridge is what drives the business. NFTs, no different, right? There's a technology piece that I can engage with your company. I can gain benefit. Great. But I need to know who Jakob is and what you guys do over there, right? This is about rapport, and business that's driven by relationships, even though it's a tech game.
I really like it because it, to some degree, also it explains why some companies don't create content or don't work with content creators, because it's the left.
So I'll tell you this: how much business did Steve Jobs drive for Apple, just as Steve Jobs, or an Elon Musk right now? What happens when all of a sudden Jeff Bezos leaves Amazon as he has? The people matter. And I'm not just saying like these big titans of industry. I'm saying that when folks do business with a company, yours, mine, anyone's, they want to know who's behind it. That's the role of content. That's where you, as a business owner, whomever you are, can make an impact on your business without even knowing it. Right. So people need to know what's going on behind the scenes, not just is there an 800 number that I can call for help, but rather, do I connect with these people? Do they think the way I think? Then comes this tech piece of the business strategy you were just talking about. Like you've done a great job. As I said, you have a coin. That coin gives me certain levels of value depending on how much I accumulate, and you've mapped that out. That makes it easy for me to see the journey. And that's what most people aren't doing right now in the NFT space. Blockchain is not going away. So what are you doing to help integrate it?
Yeah. I love it. I like this expression of trust bridge. So to some degree, it's a picture. So it should be to some degree 50-50, so that one person is coming to the bridge and the other person is halfway also on the bridge, and you're meeting in the middle. But oftentimes it feels like that I have to go completely over the bridge.
So the bricks in that bridge, the pieces that connect that planking, one is going to be the technology. Your thing better be good. If it sucks, I'm not going to use it. But then the other part of that is trust in the person themselves, because we all know no technology is perfect and something will go wrong. The development won't go as planned. There'll be some snafu. The markets move, whatever it may be. Something's not going to be right at some point. That's just the nature of technology. So if all of a sudden I have an issue, do I believe these people will take care of me? On Wall Street, they won't admit this, but the reality is whenever there's an erroneous trade or something wrong, how big and important of a client is it determines the action that other firm will take, right? So you don't want to lose a relationship is the point. The whole thing around the tech, people get lost in the tech, and the technologists oftentimes don't understand that unmeasurable, unquantifiable aspect of the trust bridge. So you're making content. There's no reason for you to be doing this. No one's paying you to create this show. But the truth of the matter is it will eventually drive you business, whether now or in an evergreen fashion down the road.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Chris is saying he agrees. Yeah.
That's so true. And I agree with you, Mark. Everyone wants to know who runs or funds businesses to be able to relate to connecting with, which builds on the foundation of trust. Yeah.
But this,
Jacob, somebody who's
it comes across as, from the technologist viewpoint, especially in a very metrics and analytics based field like, say, finance, where I came out of. What is the ROI? How do I have to attach a number to that?
Yes, all the time. ROI.
If I start using your content AI tools that you recommend, how much money am I going to make? I want to know before I start doing business with you. And you can't answer that question, right? That's not a fair question. But yet there is a factor. It's going to bring efficiency. And so then it becomes, how much trust can you build in yourself to me, a potential prospect, right? That's the missing piece of the bridge. I don't really know, but I trust Jakob. He's an insightful guy. I've been getting benefit from him for years. I'm watching his content. I'm learning. He's my guide. Let's go with him. That's how business works.
Yeah. The double tricky part with content is, so Joe Polizzi and the Tilts, and they had the study that you have to create 18 months of content before really your business model is proven, and you get not the first client, but that you get some return on investment. So it's very hard to explain somebody, especially tech owners, to say, okay, we are going to produce 18 months of content, and then you will get the ROI. Most of business owners, they want an ROI in the next 4 weeks.
Yep.
That's the max. So how would you answer, or what would you say to somebody like that who don't have the patience to create content because he says or she says it's a long-term goal, I got it, but I don't have the time and the money to do this marathon?
Right. So that's actually what my company offers, to be honest with you. But to answer your question, the reality is relationship drives revenue. And if you're not going to take the time to build that relationship, you're not going to get the revenue. That's okay. I don't mean to sound harsh, but you just simply will lose. The person, you look at a Gary Vaynerchuk or Joe Polizzi is a great example. All this content out there, I can dig. I can go down the rabbit hole for quite some time. Alex Hormozy is doing a great job right now. Grant Cardone is an example. These are people, you don't have to like them, but you know them. And all of a sudden, I can dig and get a feel for them. And so you may not know this, Jacob. I'm actually working directly with Joe. I'm head of strategic partnerships over the Tilt now. And
cool.
The one thing I can tell you, and everyone that's ever dealt with Joe will tell you, you as well, he's a great guy. And is that a factor in the business product he's offering? 100% yes. Right? It may be the best thing ever, but if the person's a jerk, you don't want to do business with them. And so how does that come across? If you have personality and you can express that through content, and you don't have to make it a point to show that, it just comes across naturally. Our conversation, people watching this will get a feel for me, will get a feel for you. The anecdotes, the stories you tell, what you're using as examples, but that's the showcasing of what content will do. And if you don't do that, you don't build the rapport.
Yes, exactly. That's all about content. So showing that you're a good human being. By the way, it worked. Chris is inviting you to his show, Marc.
Oh yeah, there you go, Chris. Thank you for jumping in. It's great. And honestly, it's always more fun when people engage. So awesome. I'm glad that we brought a little bit of value. The goal here for me and for you as well, I know because you're doing this, how much value can you bring to the next person? That's it. Because if you can bring value, you'll get business on the back end. In the old days of selling, way back when, I'm talking before the internet, you would pay the money first and get the value second. That's completely inverted now. The sales process has changed. The digitization of selling, which we'll call content marketing, or any of these AI tools, value has to happen first, and then comes the money. Because if the value is not there, the money won't appear.
Yes, especially for the AI tools, this means something like a free trial where I can test the software solution for 7 days or 2 weeks or something, and then or get a minimum of characters for GPT-3 or something, topics like that, right? So that you first have a free trial and then can book a pro account or something. Yes.
Right. And that's common in the software space, right? I come out of fintech, so you would often have free trials. In the marketing world, that's always the case, these automations. But then there's the other aspect of the relationships. We were talking about the NFTs earlier. How can I best use the software, right? Meaning if you sell something to your customer, you also need, now you're in the role of consultant, guidance counselor, because I might have sold my AI trading software to Goldman Sachs, or to Morgan Stanley, which I did. And then it became, are they using it properly? Are they using it in the best way possible? How do we customize it to their style? What aren't they doing that they don't know they should be? What other anecdotes can I bring, or customer stories or insights as their vendor? So the content AI tools, the NFT build outs, these are all ongoing strategic business initiatives. This is about business. Don't get lost in the technology. It's about making the connection, leveraging the tools better than the next guy.
Yes, Marc. Awesome to speak with you. I'm really curious. That's really cool. I like it. I love it.
I think you're exempling this perfectly, if you will. Jacob, like doing a show to help other people understand. That you said at the start, the mission of the show. This is really to help people understand through examples, use cases.
Me too, by the way.
Oh, well, thank you. But like That's a tremendous amount of value in a space right now where there's not a lot of information. Where do people, I get this question all the time. You probably do too. Where do you go to learn about DeFi, Mark? Where do you go to learn about NFTs, Jacob? Like, where do you, they want to know, like, what's the secret? What's the website I'm not aware of, or the YouTube channel that's going to get me there? And you know, there's no one place. It's this amalgamation of talking to people, reading, watching, and you're contributing to that whole sphere of education. You're bringing in interesting angles and perspectives. And sometimes people won't agree, but that's okay. That's how we learn. So you get it.
Yes. So I want to be on the forefront. I mean, we're in the wild west of Web3. There are no rules really, and no use cases. And for people who say, I need a 100% guarantee that this is going to work, sorry, my friend, there is no one. So you have to become the use case to some degree. And what helped me were indeed, you said it, the conversations. So the interview with Joe Polizzi was a turning point when it comes to my own coin. So I read some things also from Joe and listened to some podcasts and YouTube's videos, but it didn't click. So it was after this conversation I really got it, because he was somebody who demonstrated it, who has experience in it, and also launched his own coin, the Tilt coin. And then I said, okay, I have to go all in. I have to apply, and I watched also. I mean, the Tilt also has video material, training material that you can watch. There was one video, one training about how to implement Web3 into your own business.
Yep.
And I got two providers who create coins and applied to one. And next week I got a conversation, and then the rest is history. So we launched it. And I think Discord was also one good starting point. So that's what I asked also Joe, where do you get the information? So basically, there's not one platform, but it's the conversation with people, interviewing them. I think that helps me a lot, because I'm learning in the process, and these conversations help me also a lot.
And it's not just people, it's people that you trust, Jacob, right? Like Joe is an authority for good reason. He's got a coin, he's built a community, he's illustrated the success. To say nothing of his past successes as a content marketer. So he's a guy we can all learn from. And I think that you've done a great job of building out a very interesting, it's a value proposition. That's what you've got here, both from the show, from the coin. I think that's the way other people need to be modeling it. The Tilt is a fascinating community. For those who aren't familiar, I'll call it an educational organization. I mean, you're part of it, so you can speak to it. But it's basically people that trust other people and are learning together will do things that are really interesting. And that's not just the Tilt. That's just in general, communities. And community is the future of commerce, right? And the coins enable that. NFTs are merely a way to create community. Now that we've finally, this whole crypto winter has gotten us over this NFT art monkey llama thing, right? People are starting to say, well, what's the value there? You're building a coin with value. Joe has a coin with value. People, you don't need to do the coin, but those who have something like that, or an NFT program that's strategic and business driven, they maintain advantage and always will.
Yes. I love it. Really love it. So one use case, I had an interview last week or 2 weeks ago of a wine producer, Trust in Wine. And I spoke also with him yesterday. So he had an interesting use case when it comes to NFTs. So he's in the business of selling very old and exclusive wine bottles, and you can purchase the NFT, and this means you possess also the wine, but you can, until the NFT is, you can sell it again, but the wine, the bottle of wine will be stored in this wine producer, so it is perfectly stored there. Because the main problem was that every time you sell one of these bottles, it was transported, and there are fees that you have to pay. And then when you want to resell it, they have to check the quality. And now you own this NFT, and you're perfectly fine with it, because you know it's in this store, and I can resell the NFT for a higher price, or I can destroy the NFT, and then I got the bottle transported to me. So I'm also reducing the transport costs, and the bottle will be in perfect, so there will be no damages or something. And this was an interesting use case, how to use NFT and solve a problem, because this is a huge problem for many people, that they don't trust the transport ways, and there are many fees, and you don't know, is it really stored in a appropriate way, things like that. And he solved this problem through this NFT, which fascinated me, which was a really cool use case, in my opinion.
I'll give you another use case scenario, which will be very familiar and proves that this is nothing new, right? This is a well-established, tried and true model that's already worked. The banking system and the origin of it, which many people aren't familiar with. In the old days, by pre-Middle Ages, it was transportation of physical bars of gold, like coins. And that was dangerous, obviously. And so became representations of the gold were these depository receipts. The gold is safe in a vault in France. I can show you that proof here in England. Money. And that's all that the NFTs are doing. In this case, you're talking about wine as the underlier. But the concept of derivatives trading, orange juice is a derivative of an orange, right? So it comes from it. This is NFTs it's derivatives, it's representations in the marketplace of real value. And so if that value happens to be digital, it's irrelevant. Wine, physical, same thing. So these all sound so new, and people get so like fascinated by the tech. It's the same old game. This is how people work.
Yeah, I love it. That's true, and it's. I mean, when you hear it, it makes totally sense. But when you transfer it to NFTs, it becomes like, yeah, it has to be something fancy, trendy. But yeah, it's the same concept.
By the way, you've illustrated this well. I've said this before, but the ability to express that, and you do a great job of this in an analogy like banking or wine, or to express what's really happening, not using the tech terms. That's a talent. That's a skill. That's a communication thing that a lot of the technologists need to learn.
I mean, I worked as a digital editor, so my background is journalism.
That's why you're good at this.
Yeah, you have to be specific. So it's like no shiny terms. As easy as as somebody from the primary school could understand it. That's your main job. Communicate so that little children can understand it. And I have a 4-year-old son and a 1-year-old. So if I make complicated terms, he will just
going nowhere. And that's great. Fun times, by the way.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah. Awesome. Do you want to?
Yeah. No, I was going to say I think that this is very meta, right? The examples that you're providing of how to bring value, how to communicate it, how to illustrate for people what they can potentially do to help their own business. At the end of the day, you're bringing people potentially revenue, but definitely understanding. And I think that that's in a rarefied space right now where there's not a lot of information. There's no easy place to come to understand that. Providing a forum, a venue for people to engage, it's always been the way that people learned when there was something they didn't understand.
Yes.
Right? If you remember back, a quick example for you, the pandemic, unfortunately, no one knew anything, right? At the start of COVID, it was everyone for themselves, and people were worried and fearful, and it became the sharing of information. Became, okay, this is how we need to respond. These are best practices, if you will, for handling. It came from people sharing with people, and that's what we're doing here. NFTs, Web3, blockchain, these are really interesting technologies that are having a huge impact on the world already. The AI aspect is going to only accelerate that. So then it becomes, how do I learn about it from people like you? How do I apply it? What do I do inside my business? What are the benefits I can bring to my customer base? I guarantee you, whatever business your listeners are in, doesn't matter. There's a complete list of benefits. You could walk them through right now, so could I, that they can help grow their business digitally. It's just about quantifying value.
Yes. Love it. So, Marc, I mean, I could continue this conversation for 1 more hour, but our time is limited. Sorry about that one. So, if people want to get in touch with you or want to work with you, where should they go?
So, 2 best places to find me. I'm Marc at Anvictus.com. Anvictus is my company, or Marc Angelos on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I'm on all the social platforms as Marc Angelos NYC. That's Marc with a C.
Yes, that's awesome. I appreciate your time, really, Mark. It was a pleasure to speaking with you. Is there something last statement that you want to share, or something that we didn't spoke about?
I would say don't be afraid to design what an NFT should be for your company, right? You don't have to do anything, but
Yeah,
hammer it out, because that thought process is where you need to begin to leverage these technologies. And by the way, the technologies are irrelevant ultimately. This is going to be standard business. So you're on the front side of it. People should be learning about it. Kudos to you. And thank you for having me on, by the way. I hope it brought a little bit of
really,
value to the audience, but I wanted to say I appreciate the conversation. It's nice to hear your input as well.
definitely, you added a lot of value. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate you being on my show. That's awesome, and looking forward to our next conversation.
Thank you. Yeah.
And yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for the comments, Chris. I will do an intro. Maybe that would make sense. Curious what will happen after that. So Chris is also awesome guy. I interviewed him also and was also on his show. So he's a great guy.
I'll be
And
awesome.
yeah,
Be honored.
definitely. So thanks for watching and see you on the next episode. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.